Hey. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Anybody home? Hey, Daryl Dimer. Welcome to the stream, man. Once again, I have no real axe to grind today. I do have the 55-gallon up and running. It is holding water. I haven't filled it completely to the top yet, but it is holding water. I do have I didn't put any substrate in it at all, but I did put a bunch of rock work and some wood. I went and bought some wood. I tried my wood out of my yard and it just didn't seem to do very well, so I went ahead and bought a piece of manzanita and stuck it in there with some rock work. I've got a wave maker in there. Hey, 54 Punchy, welcome to the stream. You guys are getting pretty regular here. I better add you as moderators. There. You now have the power. 8KP Aquariums, how are you going? How are you doing, man? Same old on this end. I'm home from Peru. I'm pretty much back into the grind. I'm waiting breathlessly for my fish to get here. We heard that they should be shipped on the 8th. I'm not sure whether that means on the 8th they will be in Washington. Dean and Corey are going to get them, and I know they're putting their fish in some of Corey's tanks. They set up a rack to hold wild-caught fish. I'm not sure whether they will stick my fish in those tanks as well, or whether they will just ship them straight to me. I'm not sure whether they'll change water or what they'll do. But I am desperately waiting for them. I've got a 55 up for my tetras and my plecos, and I could get anywhere from 30 plecos to you know, however many die in shipping, whatever the losses are. But I think there's about 30 plecos that I could get. Well, we'll just have to see when I get them what I get. Dean may decide he wants some. I know he's going to keep some of the green golds, but I'm hoping to get about 10 green golds to have a viable pair or two to hopefully breed them. I should get anywhere between 30 and 100 tetras, and the tetras and the plecos will go in the 55. And I'm really not getting anything else other than the cichlids, the acaras, potentially acara species, undescribed species, which will go in the 30 long that's been set up now for over a week. I've been using Stability. I found an old bottle of Safe Start. I threw that in the 55. I finally rigged up a light on the tank, the 55. I've got a little light for the 30 long, and I finally rigged up a light for the 55-gallon, and I threw a bunch of magnolia leaves, because I've got a magnolia tree in my yard, and I usually gather those leaves. I don't have any of the kinds of leaves that they have natively down there in Peru. They've got some really huge leaves, as I'm sure you guys have seen in Joseph's and Corey's videos. Um, so it will be probably 30 or 40 magnolia leaves, 10 or 12 rocks, a large piece of manzanita driftwood, um, and a bunch of 54 Punchy says he grabbed a box of fish stuff out of his storage unit yesterday. Amongst the fishy stuff is a really gold style airstone with about 6 foot of black rubber airline. You really are really old style airstone with about 6 foot of black rubber airline. Yeah, you really are old school, 54 Punchy, if you still have black airline, because it's been a long time since I've seen any of that. Anyway, I think my tanks are ready. I still have not gotten my overflow to work like I want it to, so my sump is still not connected. I'm just cycling the sump with bacteria in it. I use filter media out of my old Fluval 4 canister filter that's been sitting around, and I just went ahead and stuck that in there. I think I got some TDS out of it because I set it up on the 30 long, and the TDS jumped when I had it running. So I've still got to get my wow. I've still got an old Metaframe. I think I've got a Metaframe 20, or maybe it's a 10. But I don't use it anymore because the bottom leaks. Hey, Justin Shepard, welcome to the stream. And Mountaintop, I didn't welcome you, but welcome to the stream. So I'm ready and waiting with bated breath until my fish arrive, and I'm looking for that to be on the 9th or the 10th or the 11th, and I'm not sure which day. It's going to depend on how Dean picks them up. It's going to depend on how Dean deals with my fish, whether he just doesn't even open my box and just ships it straight to me like it is. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I know the shipping date is the 8th, and we already have the costs of the shipping itself. I'm not sure. I know Dean will have to pay pickup fees at the airport itself, so I'm not sure what the exact cost is going to be. It's probably going to be somewhere between $100 and $250. I don't know exactly what. And the shipping cost for 1 day shipping from UPS overnight is probably going to run me another $100. But you know, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound now. I want these fish. I knock on wood. I hope they do well, and I hope that I can breed them and get some of these creatures into the hobby. I've talked to my local fish store about it, and I don't really. They seem interested. Hey Joel, welcome to the stream. They seem interested, but they don't seem like they really want to buy stuff. So I don't know whether to, you know, I guess local fish stores sometimes have trouble selling the stock they've got, and they don't really, you know, they're interested, they're excited about it, but they just don't seem to be, you know, too hep about me bringing them babies. I'll just have to see if and when I can get them to breed and raise the fry up. You know, I'll just have to see. Dean and I talked about sharing babies back and forth because he's going to have a lot of different fish than I have, and I'm going to have different fish from what he's got. So because we kept different things. Dean kept cories and twig cats and things like that, whereas I kept the red and black plecos, the gold plecos, and the gold green plecos, and some other types. and I kept the Acaras, and Dean kept Apistos. Yeah, I can't wait to see what all I got to. Plus, there was a whole tank of mixed tetras of all different kinds, and I should get between 10 and 20 of the blue tetras. Hey Laura, welcome to the stream. And I should get 20 or 30 of the Nigra fasciata, the black belt, Nigra fasciata cinctus, the black belts. And there was a silver dollar and a couple of what I think of as bucktooth tetras. I had some splash tetras. I had a bunch of different kinds of tetras, and I'm looking forward to getting 40 or 100 tetras in that 55 and letting them all school around and see how they do. When I was moving all that stuff out of the corner where that rack went, I found something that might interest you guys. Here, let me widescreen my picture. I'm not sure if you can see the date on this clearly, but it's July 1994. This was an ACL convention that was held in oh gosh, oh, where the Alamo is, San Antonio, Texas, in '94. And I worked it. I was a member of the Texas Cichlid Association at that time, and I worked the convention. Oh, it's hard to line this up center style. And I had thought that was lost, but I found it when I was digging to get all the stuff out of that corner. Yeah, I've been using this. My picture scroll was almost 300 pictures long, so I figured most people wouldn't watch it because it's 28 minutes. So I've been using this as the background just to get it some airplay. There's some bad photographs in there, bad focus, things out of wine, but I figured it would. Hey, Select Pet, welcome to the stream. I figured that it would, you know, it's about 28 minutes long, so it runs through twice while we're doing a live stream, pretty much. And I figured that would give us topics to talk about, and I took mostly, or a great portion of the pictures I took were of plant life for my wife, because she's a botanist and loves plants as much as anything. And I took a lot of my pictures and my video. Hey Victor, welcome to the stream, man. I took a lot of pictures and video of the plant life in Peru, and my wife went through my list, my photos, and picked the ones she liked best, and they're on her screensaver now. So, if anyone has any questions, the group here, or perhaps myself, will try to answer them. I haven't been doing my tips lately because it's been Peru, and the videos are starting to come out from Corey and Joseph, and it gives you a chance to see other viewpoints of the trip. Many of you know Dean, and know that he took a lot of photos. He did very little video, maybe with his phone. I think most of you have probably seen the When Your Song Comes On video that he did of the five of us in the car, and his favorite song came on the radio, and everybody started singing it, or everybody started pantomiming it. But mostly Dean took photographs, and I'm so jealous of his equipment because he took some incredible photographs. I got to see a lot of the dailies when he would come in. You know, when we'd come in at night, he'd set up his computer and go through his shots, and sometimes I'd stick my chip in there in his computer, and we would look at shots together, mine and his. And I feel like I really got to know Select Pet says, just walked in from the live fish store, and my daughter asked if she could try to crossbreeding a guppy and a cichlid. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen so much. Yeah, Katy Perry, that's who the song was. Katy Perry's not one of my choices, but Dean loves her. That's all that mattered. I think you should tell your daughter that the guppies would end up in the cichlid's stomach, and that might end that idea. I mean, you know, anything's possible. You know, guppies and endlers have crossed, and we've got a lot of hybrid endler guppies around in the trade and the fish world these days, so it's possible to cross a lot of different kinds of things. Yeah, I'm of two minds about hybrids. You know, there are horror stories like the parrotfish crosses, and you know, there's a lot of different types of things that are sold in the pet hobby, you know, in the trade itself, from stores, you know, like dye injected or dye DNA'd fish and hybrids and that kind of things. I've never really been a fan of that sort of stuff. I've never bought any of it. Although I've got to admit that I have Lucas Bretz's Tiger Rainbow Endlers, which are obviously a cross between a guppy and an endler, but endlers and guppies are really close anyway. Yeah, Select Pet, I have to agree with you. It's always one of the most important things we can do in this hobby is to keep it going. And the way that we do that is by introducing young children to it and showing them the work involved and the joy involved, and that's how this hobby keeps going, is that we pass down our love of fish keeping to those that are younger. And you know, it may not catch right away with them. It may be many years later that they go to a fish store and see fish again and think, wow, I used to love watching fish when I was a kid. I think I'll get a tank and try to start again. You know, a lot of people, hey, Fish Tropic, welcome to the stream, man. So I always recommend that everyone, one, try to introduce kids to the hobby, you know, to let them see your fish tanks, to let them ask questions about your fish tanks, to give them enough information to keep them engaged in the idea of it, to court the science of fish keeping in case the child is scientifically leans towards scientific stuff. so that they get an idea of, one, the beauty of watching fish, how fun it is and how calming it is, and two, that they get a little taste for what's involved with keeping fish and what it requires and what it takes to learn. And sometimes children are voracious devourers of knowledge, and the knowledge around fish tanks is pretty engrossing, and it pulls them in, and they become lifelong fish keepers. And that's how this hobby continues on. So encourage young people, 15 years old can be encouraged as well, and try to help young people that are new to the hobby, that are trying to learn how to keep their fish. I always try to go out of my way to help people that I feel like are new to the hobby, that are young, and try to give them a feeling of inclusion in the group. It's people like Flynn from Flynn's Fish Forum, and what's the guy in the Netherlands? Gosh, his name's escaping me now. I think that it is critical that we, one, encourage them, two, give them as much information as we possibly can. Danny in the Netherlands. Those are people that I feel like it's important that we encourage, that we help, that we make feel included in the group, because they are the future of this hobby. And need to groom young fish keepers. You're right, Fish Tropics. It's really important. It's really important in the sense that there are a lot of fish that we have in our tanks that no longer exist in the wild, that we're aware of, because their habitat has been destroyed. And the only way they're going to stay alive is if there are enough fish keepers around in the hobby to keep those fish in their tanks and to keep the generations of that fish species pure, and trade with other people that are raising them as well, so that the bloodlines can cross and mix, and that a healthy population is maintained by hobbyists. There's a lot of scientists in this hobby. There's a lot of ichthyology people. There's a lot of marine biologists. There's a lot of people that are in this hobby on the periphery, but they do not have the tank space. They do not have the wherewithal. Hey, HC Aqua, welcome to the stream, man. They do not have the wherewithal to have the number of tanks that it requires for these fish to all be kept and bred and kept alive in our hobby. And Fish Tropic says it's so important. A lot of people don't realize. Half the people that get fish don't know what they're doing. That's why community is great. Answers on answers, 1,000 ways to solve one problem. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It's critical. It's critical not only in the sense of keeping our hobby alive, but also in the sense of keeping the fish alive, because the fish, a lot of the fish that we have now and many, many more to come, are not going to be available in the wild any longer. The global warming, whether you believe it or not, is drying up habitats. Palm oil farming is destroying habitats. All the fertilizer runoff, the cutting down of the rainforest is destroying habitats. Gold mining, like in Peru, many of the pictures that I took were of streams and creeks where gold mining has destroyed and wiped out populations. They're not going to be available to get into the hobby in a couple of decades, probably. Another 2 decades of the earth going like it is and the population boom going like it is and the freedom of industry to destroy habitat, these fish are not going to be alive anymore. And the only way they're going to survive is if we, as a community, are keeping them in tanks and sharing back and forth Sure, Fish Tropics. Chaz, the last I heard from Chaz, he was in one of my chats not long ago, live streams, and he is now in London. He has left Peru and school, and he is working in London. Somebody hired him, so he's gone to London. Yeah, if after I get stuff settled, after I get my fish identified or potentially identified, and a lot of these fish, the ichthyologists, the upper echelon of the fish keeping hobby is still arguing back and forth, just like these Andiacaras potentially that I should be getting soon. They are not really decided on, but Hans George Evers, who has also gone with Go Wild Peru several times, he loves to catch the cories down there. Hans George Evers, Michael Barber spoke to him about the fish that I should be getting, and he said that he thinks it's an undescribed acara, Andiacara. Victor says he has his first Hysamon cilia fry. I can't pronounce that word, Victor. Breeding, and it's so much fun. Yeah, grats, man. I think it's a terrific feeling knowing that your fish are thriving well enough in your tanks to be able to breed. Justin asks, are there gar in Peru? Peru spans a great deal of the South American continent, north and south, and along the coast in places. Lima is on the coast, west of the Andes. Puerto Maldonado is in the east, southeast, east of the Andes. And I can't tell you yay or nay as to there being gar in the northern part of Peru near Iquitos, I think is how you pronounce it, which is on the Amazon. That's where a lot of people go collecting. Like if you followed Dustin's videos about collecting in the Amazon, that is in the northern part near Iquitos, and that is a completely different environment than the one that we were in. The water temperatures are much higher. The rivers and the streams are usually much larger. There are a lot more variety of fish in that area simply because of the many different streams, lakes, rivers in that area. So I think that the variety of fish that you catch up there is much. There's many more species. Um, I don't know about gar, freshwater gar. I don't know. I would tend to think that it's possible, but I'm not well versed enough in gar to even know if there are South American gar or if they come from some other location. I would tend to think so. We saw about 6 different species of cories. We saw wolffish. We saw knife fish of many different varieties, maybe 4 or 5. We saw there were some pike cichlids. There were the acara. There were apistos. I think 2 different kinds of apistos that Dean got. Just an amazing array of tetras. I should get some hatchet fish that we caught. So those were the kinds of species. There were twig cats. There were wood cats, you know, like the ninja catfish, the little wood cats. There were pencil fish, but we saw very few of them. I don't know whether we did not make it to the location where the pencil fish are caught mostly, but we did not see them. And pencil fish and wood cats and loricards were some of the things that were on my wish list until I got down there and I saw all of the different ancestris and pleco species that there were. I know we saw some loricards, and I think we caught a few, but I don't know whether those made it into the bucket that came home, so I don't know whether I'll get them or not. So what I'm saying to Fish Tropics query about me adding fish to the map, there are 2 things here. One, there has been a history of people finding out where the locations are where these fish can be caught, that unscrupulously go out and rotenone, you know, use poison on a whole stream just to get a few of the fish that they want when they float up. And then they put those fish in fresh water and they survive, and then they just walk away from the stream and let all the other fish die. So the locations need to be hidden so that unscrupulous people don't go to those locations. And that's why you get me and Corey and all of us making up names for creeks, making up names for rivers, because of how critical it is not to give away the locations, the exact locations. Photographs should not have coordinates on them and that sort of stuff. And secondly, I don't know exactly what I've got. And once I get a chance to get them in the tank and get them thriving and get them through whatever wild caught problems they have, I will start trying to nail down identifications on them. I will start posting pictures. I'll be able to get good pictures. You know, it may take me a while because of my photographic skills, but I will get good pictures and add them to lists where, you know, Planet Catfish, the cichlid forums, and I'm going to try to breed them all, Fish Tropic. Victor asked, do you think black neon tetras will eat Inler fry? I think they will eat them if they're small enough to go down their throat, yes. Hey, Sergeant Tank, welcome to the stream. We're just basically rattling on about a few questions and me jabbering about Peru again. Yes, Fish Tropic, those were the pencil fish that were supposed to be there. There were quite a few days when we were so exhausted. I've got to be honest, I was not as much of a help as I should have been just because of my physicality. Walking those rocks was really rough on my back. And so when we got to the rivers that were rock gardens, I would go as long as I could, but I would give out early because of my back and knowing not to push it too far. On some of the streams and creeks, the mud was so deep that it would exhaust me pulling my feet. You know, you step in the mud and go 1.5 feet deep or 2 foot deep. Then you have to pull your foot back out and keep your boot or shoe on to take another step. And it was exhausting to me, and my physicality is such that I wasn't in good enough shape as I should have been. So there were times when I was unable to go to another location in the sense of actually having the wherewithal to collect. Fish Tropics is asking, so how does the fish fam stop mercury from entering the stream? I don't know that the fish fam can. Maybe by joining with groups that try to stop mercury from entering streams. Maybe from joining groups that fight against the destruction of habitats. That's one of the things that happens with the gold mining. But as much as I harp on how bad the gold mining was in Peru, you have got to understand, and I learned this myself, those people are living in almost poverty there. I mean, there's plenty that do really well and make lots of money, don't get me wrong. But a great deal of the people live in subsistence living, and the gold mining offers jobs, good paying jobs for those people. Driving trucks, working in the factories, working in the field, doing the actual work, repairing the equipment. There are many towns in Peru, in southern Peru at least, that I know of, that are based on the mining economy. The money that it brings in, the work that has to be done, and people make their living doing that. And it's pretty arrogant for Americans to stand and point fingers and say, you're destroying all this native habitat, without understanding that there is no income for those people to turn to if that were to suddenly end. So Corey was a beast, Fish Tropic. Corey caught fish probably at a 3/4 rate to Dean and Felix. Felix caught more fish than any of us put together. Dean was right there with him catching that many fish. And Corey was very close. Then probably came Joseph, and then came me. And don't get me wrong, I probably caught 40 or 50 fish. But like bending over, holding my net down in the V of current in a fast-flowing stream, balancing on rocks, holding the net down and then bending over and pulling heavy rocks to get the plecos to come up out of the substrate or off the rocks and into my net. I only caught like 1 or 2 of those green gold plecos because I could not bend over and do that much heavy work with my back. It just, plus walking on the rocks and balancing. The video I did of testing water, you can see me almost fall over in the first video. I stood up off of that rock and I went right back down again. Corey fell many times. It's in his videos and in our videos as well. But it was a great deal of effort to catch the fish. It took amazing speed with the net. You had to spot the fish, stab the water in front of them, and go to the bottom and sweep back before they could react. And if you watch Felix closely doing it, he's in that water and out of that water in just a second. And it was hard for me to generate, it's just like anything else. After having done it for years and years, he knows exactly what he's trying to do. And I don't. So I'm stabbing wrong, or I'm not stabbing quickly enough. I actually had better luck going under them and coming up. I could do that faster than I could stab in front of them. Fish Tropics wants to know, what government do we have to pay off to get some stable mining going? I don't know. It strikes me that it's very possible for sustainable mining and sustainable habitats to coexist, but it's going to require a whole lot more money because they're going to have to build holding ponds to hold the water, the contaminated water. They're going to have trucks and collection methods to collect that water and take it out. Hey, the Fish Box, welcome to the stream. And yes, I fell in love with the golden green plecos. We saw a couple of the older ones. I think Dean caught one, or Felix caught one that was about 4 inches and just covered with odontals. And they lose some of that green gold color, or at least the one we had in a bucket had lost a lot of its green gold coloring by the time it was completely mature. But the young ones are a light kind of limeish forest green color with gold highlights on their head, their fins, and all across their body, all the way down their body. Some of it looks like flecks. Some of it looks like yeah, they can recollect that mercury, and that does help as far as the poisoning of the streams and rivers goes. But it's not the only way that they can really do it is to have a complete, because basically what they're doing is they're setting up a fire hose, something with super pressure, and they are spraying away hillsides to get to the gold. The gold's heavier than the water and the mud and the rocks is, and so it sinks and they can catch it. And they basically just let that water run straight off into the streams. And that's what's really going on. And yes, there are a lot of poor people in Peru that are getting ill from the mercury. There are a lot of streams and rivers that have so much mercury in them now that the people cannot eat the fish any longer without getting ill. And it's really put a dent in the ceviche making in the area, because they're having to ship fish in from elsewhere to actually be able to make the ceviche in the fancy restaurants. So yeah, it's bad all around except when it's good, and it's good for the people to be able to make a living. And as badly as I want to say, never do this again, find some way to not do it, part of me is watching those poor people and recognizing that they have a right to upgrade their lives, to be able to afford to send their children to good schools, to have decent health care. There's a lot of conflict in me about the subject. 80% of me is against it, but there's a very strong 20% that recognizes that it's purely arrogance on my part to stand and point a finger and say, you can't do that. You can't be upping your income level by destroying habitat, because it's been done in the United States for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's not fair for some people to get rich and others to not have the opportunity to gain wealth. So it's a mixed bag. It's not fair. It's not good. But it's as it is, you know. I just, part of me is very, very determined to find some way to stop the gold mining in the state that it is in, that it is not fair, that it is irredeemably harming the environment. But part of me understands the desire of those people to have a life. They spray mine and then they extract the gold with mercury right there on the same site. Yes, and somehow we need to get millennials engaged in the idea that their world is not going to be the same pretty soon if they just keep letting things go like they're going. We're rolling back regulations. We're basically going backwards 100 miles an hour right now. Yes, fish tropics. The people in business believe that the planet is an ATM machine. They can just keep sticking their card in there and withdrawing money forever. They don't care about future generations. They don't care if what kind of lifestyle people will have in the future. They just think that it is their right to extract every last cent of cash out of the environment in any way they can. And destruction of the environment be damned. And it's a sad commentary on the state of people today. Hey, Pleco Whisperer, welcome to the stream. It's really a sad commentary that things have reached the point where not only are we not trying to save the environment, we're trying to destroy the environment. We're working as hard as we can to destroy the environment and make our planet unlivable for wildlife or us. Things have a way of swinging in one direction, you know, like a pendulum. The pendulum goes way far in one direction, and there's backlash and reaction to how far it's gone in that direction. And then it swings back as hard as it can go in the other direction. And then there's backlash and reaction to that. It never stays in one place. It keeps moving. As a species, we have a really hard time collecting the knowledge that our forebears have brought to us about our planet and about our lives and about how we live our lives. Um, it's just not easy for people. I mean, people don't even believe that the concentration camps existed ever in World War II now, because so many of the people that actually lived through that experience have died off. And so there's very few actual witnesses left that can attest to the fact that there were concentration camps and that millions of people, mostly Jews, died in those concentration camps by the Nazis. And yet today, there are so many people that refuse to believe it, that refuse to accept what has gone on before informs what we should do now. So we get nationalism springing up. We get all these varieties of dangerous politics that have existed in the past, have risen, have caused huge amounts of damage, and then been destroyed, because the people will eventually destroy bad politics, bad government. But we don't learn. We don't say, okay, this is what happened before, and we're not going to do that this time. We're going to do something different. We're going to try another way. Or they don't learn that we've been destroying the environment forever, and it hasn't worked. So now we're going to try a different way of doing it by not destroying the environment, by keeping the environment high on the list of our priorities. But they won't try it long enough. They scream and squawk about it destroying jobs. Okay, that's enough for me ranting. Fish Tropic asks, when you leave your house, do you litter? Fish Tropics, I am very strong about littering. But even I noticed in my videos about water testing that I threw my test strip away without even thinking about it. You know, when I'm at home and I water test, I throw that test strip in a garbage. But I just flipped it away from me, and I felt really bad. I felt guilty when I saw myself doing that in the video. I thought, oh my God, there you are littering, you know. It's not much litter. It will dissolve pretty quickly, but it's litter. So I say that I don't litter, but I also understand that I catch myself littering sometimes. Aaron Rodriguez wants to know if I'm his grandpa. And I'm going to say, no, I am not your grandpa. All right, guys, we've been around long enough today for the trolls to get here, so it's probably time to start closing this down. If anybody has any questions, any last-minute topics to go. Aaron, if you were a dog, you could probably lick my beard. Thanks, Joel. People asking me questions about licking my beard is, it's fun, huh? I know that there are people out there that have nothing better to do than troll videos, troll live streams, but I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, it comes with the territory. If you are around long enough, you will attract trolls eventually. Any place there's anyone gathered. Yeah, Laura, it's you've come back to Joel kicking a troll. All right, guys. I've still got some activity that I need to take care of today. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for spending a certain portion of your valuable time with me. Justin Shepard says, I just got an FX5 and it keeps shutting down after 5 minutes of running. Any suggestions? Justin, the FX5s and the FX6s and 7s are all pretty particular about the way their hoses are set up. If you've got a loop in one of those hoses, if the hose falls and then rises again, you can get air. Air will collect in the lines, and that will stop it from running. And the air may probably stay in the line until you move the line in such a... Michael Tett, welcome to the stream. And yes, they will either be in the United States or they will ship on the 8th from Peru. And I am probably, yeah, Justin, make sure that the line runs flat away from the tank so that it doesn't loop or dip down and then rise back up again. And you should get the air out of it. Michael, I'm hoping to get my fish. I don't know how it's going to be handled exactly by Dean and Corey. They are the ones that are picking the fish up from the airport in Washington, and then they will be shipped to me. I don't know whether they will be shipped immediately. I don't know whether they will be shipped the next day or the next couple of days. So I'm looking for them on the 9th to say like the 12th, depending on how they ship. And Dean and I are in contact, and he will inform me of the shipping and my tracking and all that sort of thing. I'm going to use overnight UPS and have them put on my front porch. Yes, I try my best to mod wall. Okay, guys, I'm going to shut it down. Thanks for spending some of your time with me. I hope it was valuable enough to you in some way as to be worth it. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same bat channel.